What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPapa, and I'm so excited to bring you guys this video today. So I love our monthly videos. Our monthly videos help us keep a finger on the pulse of a lot of the happenings in the Pokemon hobby. But this is a quarterly video. It's had 90 days to marinate, 90 days for wibbles and wobbles and peaks and valleys. And I love it when we look at data from a quarterly perspective because it gives us obviously a much bigger picture versus just looking at it every single month. So what we're doing in this video is we're looking at Sun and Moon booster box data. Now we did this in Q1, we did this in Q2, and now obviously we're casting this out for Q3. So what we do is we take the booster box prices over a defined period of time, we put them into a forecasting calculator, and the forecasting calculator gives us a couple numbers. So it's going to say, hey, this is the forecast that I think these booster boxes are going to be at the end of Q3, which is September 30th. It's also going to give us an upper and lower confidence bound. So it's going to say, okay, this is the number I think the booster box price is going to be at, but it could go as high as this, it could go as low as that. So it really gives us kind of like a cone of uncertainty, and I'm going to show you that here in just a minute. Now, the most important thing that I want to talk about is look at these results down below. And before we get into the results, I want you to take all of this with a big grain of salt, right? We're in a big, strong Pokemon market, so we expect there to be strong results. Math is black and white. It has no idea what's going on in the outside world. You're going to see some of these numbers, some of these forecasts that don't make sense. Like, you have to use that big, beautiful Pokemon brain of yours when you're making buying and selling decisions. So this is meant to be a tool in your tool belt. This is meant to be, help you play chess when everybody else is playing checkers. It's really for entertainment purposes only. But look at the results down below. There's absolutely a there. So remember, we're looking at the 12 sets that have booster boxes in the Sun and Moon era. We did it for Q1. We have the results for Q1. We did it for Q2. I'm going to share the results of Q2 with you later, but I incorporated them into this results column down below now. I want to show you the results early in the video because there's a lot of data here and it's a longer video and I want you to find value in your time before you sit down and watch the whole thing. So remember, I talked about the upper confidence bound, the lower confidence bound, and that forecast number. So 21 of the 24 instances, right? We did it in Q1. We have 12 results. We did it in Q2. We have 12 more results. 24 total results. 21 of the 24 times the booster box price has been above the lower confidence bound when we look at this. To me, that's awesome. I always like to know what the bottom is. Now again, 21 out of 24, that's only 88% of the time, but that feels really good about the math being able to set a pretty solid bottom in for us to take a look at when we're making buying decisions. The other thing I wanted to call out too is if you look at Sword and Shield was 22 of 24. Now Sword and Shield is fundamentally different than Sun and Moon, right? Sword and Shield, you can still buy it at MSRP all over the place. Sun and Moon, you can't. So the fact that we have two different products that are from two very different eras that are performing very differently and we still have this correlation in data is really, really exciting to me. The most exciting thing is when you look at the actual forecast numbers. So Q1 and Q2, 18 of the 24 actual forecast numbers, the actual booster box price was at or above that 75% of the time. Exact same for Sword and Shield, exact same here in Sun and Moon. So that is some real excitement for me. Now, again, I'm going to say this before I get into the actual data. Take it with a grain of salt. We need more time. We need more results for us to ever start thinking that there's a there. But this is a really fun video, and I can't wait to share it with you. Speaking of fun videos, I can't wait to share with you. If this kind of stuff gets you guys excited, listen, you'd love to have you as a member of this community. We're building an amazing group of Pokemon data heads. So hit that subscribe button if you hadn't. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Questions or comments, drop them down below. Now, as I always do, I want to show you all behind the curtains. That way you don't think PikaPikaPapa is sitting here on some back napkin doing math. This is what the actual data looks like before I clean it up for you. You can see in the one column has all the booster box prices for the Sword and Shield set from January 2022 all the way to the end of June 2023. Now remember, that blue line right there on that graph, that blue line represents the actual booster box prices. Those orange lines represent three different things that we've already talked about. The one in the middle, that solid orange line, that's the actual forecast, right? We're going to represent that in orange throughout the rest of the video. So that's what the math says. Listen, this is what we're banking on. This is what we think this set is going to finish at from a booster box price perspective on September 30th of 2023. Then it gives you those two different spaghetti lines that go off. One higher, that's the upper confidence bound. One lower, that's the lower confidence bound. Lower confidence bound, we're going to show in red. Upper confidence bound, we're going to show in green. And let's get into the actual results and the actual numbers right now. So this is Sun and Moon. I'll go through Sun and Moon I'll go through it in more detail and then we'll kind of blow through the rest of them. But that peach box up top is the Q2 projection. So you can see Sun and Moon booster box was projected to end Q2 at $223. It actually finished at $236, right? So it beat forecast, right? But then it gave us this upper and lower confidence bound. It said, okay, at the end of Q2, Sun and Moon could be as high as $251. $100 for a booster box or as low as $194. It finished closer to the upper confidence bound. It beat forecast, so it performed really well. You'll also see that when it threw out this Q2 projection, the math favored it to go higher, right? It said upper confidence bound is up 18%, the lower confidence bound is only down 9%. So to me, when I see stuff like this, it makes me feel like the math is a little bullish. And what happened? It beat forecast. Like, not only did it perform well, but it also beat the number that the math had forecasted out. So whenever we start seeing that, a little more of a bullish call in the math, maybe there's a there. I don't know yet. We'll have to keep looking at it. We'll have to keep data warehousing this quarter after quarter. Interestingly enough, when you look at Sun and Moon for Q3, the math is saying it's going to cool off a little bit, right? Like, it's at $236 a booster box now. The math is saying at the end of September, it's only going to be at $232. This is what I was referencing earlier when you got to use those brains on your shoulders, right? Like, I don't think Sun and Moon booster box prices is going to go down. It also says, hey, it could go down. The lower confidence bound is down as -5%. The upper confidence bound is only +3%. For me, this math doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, I'm super bullish on Sun and Moon booster boxes, so maybe I'm a little blinded by that. But there will be times where the math says something and we don't agree with it. Now, it'll be really interesting because so far the math has been pretty spot on, but for Sun and Moon, it's going to be fascinating to see how this actually pans out. Then you get to Guardian Rising right here. Guardian Rising was another one. Q2 projected out, the forecast was $334. It ended up at $369. Now, you'll see that the Q2 projection was all over the place. It had an upper confidence bound of +25%, lower confidence bound of -22%. Basically, the math was saying, we don't know where the heck Guardian Rising is going to go. But now that we have that $269 actual, when we recast for Q3 saying, hey, where's this going to be at the end of September 2023? Look at the delta between the upper and lower confidence bound starts to tighten up a little bit, right? It is forecasting Guardian Rising to be at $383 per booster box. Again, that's assuming nothing changes in the market. That's assuming we live in a vacuum and everything performs the way we think it will. But we don't live in a vacuum. Who knows what's going to happen? That forecast seems a little bit high to me, but the upper and lower confidence bound, again, just like we saw with Sun and Moon in the above slide, where we're talking about the Q2 projection. Remember, it's positive 18% for Sun and Moon and only down 9% for Sun and Moon in Q2. This one, we see that divergence, right? We see that the upper confidence bound is positive 11% and the lower confidence bound is only -3. So the math really likes Guardian Rising over the next 30 days. Another data point where I just can't wait to see how this all shakes out. Man, I love for all of this, but I do feel good because there's a strong track record of sets that have this divergence between the upper confidence bound and the lower confidence bound doing really, really well. So now we're going to look at Crimson Invasion, right? Crimson Invasion is another one that the math isn't super bullish on. You'll look, the forecast for Q2 was 169. It blew it out of the water, finishing at 191. You'll see that the Q2 projection, it didn't know what was going to go on, could be up 9%, could be down 9%. And now that we look at the Q3 projection, it's only saying, hey, at the end of September, it's only going to go up a couple dollars. It's really projecting Crimson Invasion to be flat over the next 3 months. And then we see the same thing. The math is kind of saying the upper confidence bound is positive 10%, lower confidence bound is negative 8%. The math is just saying, I'm not sure where this is going to go. I don't think it's going to move a lot. It could move a little bit up, a little bit down, but it doesn't think it's going to be a big mover and shaker over the next 3 months. Then we look at Burning Shadows down here. Burning Shadows, another one, just absolutely crushed forecast. Again, as I said in the beginning of the video, right? We have been in a very, very exciting Pokemon market, especially in the Sun and Moon space. All of the singles cards are going nuts. Most of the booster boxes are going nuts. So I'm not surprised to see Burning Shadows blow the forecast out of the water. But this is another set where the math is being very cautionary. The math is saying, listen, I know you performed really well, but I'm still projecting you to be flat over the next 3 months. Another set where it's saying, I don't know what's going to happen. Could go up 15%, could go down 15%, but my projection, the math is saying, is that it is going to be flat. I love this stuff. I love where there's data that makes me scratch my head, because in 3 months when we come back and look at this, it is just going to be so cool to see how it all pans out. And if all of this is on the nose and we now have 3 different quarters of very strong data correlation, I'm just going to absolutely lose my mind. I can't wait. So let's get into Forbidden Light. Forbidden Light has been all over the place. Forbidden Light has broken so many of my different math equations, it's not even funny. So it projected out to be at $283 at the end of Q2. We finished at $291. So it beat forecast. That's great. But you'll also see that it was favored a little bit higher, right? Like the Q2 projection had +9 and only -5. So it did beat forecast, which is what we would expect, but it didn't crush forecast as we've seen in a lot of the earlier ones. Now, when you look at the Q3 forecast, it's actually projecting it to come down again. This is the first time time where I see a forecast that is lower than current booster box price, and I'm like, maybe, if anybody can buck the trend, if anybody can get crazy with it, it's going to be Forbidden Light, because I have seen Forbidden Light go all over the place recently. Doesn't make sense to me. I think it's a great set. I think there's great cards in it. I think it certainly deserves to be, you know, right there along with the hype train as all the other ones. But the math is saying, hey, it might go down over the next 3 months. So we will keep an eye on that. Ultra Prism, right? Ultra Prism is another one that has performed really, really well. The thing I want to call out about Ultra Prism is, look, it beat the forecast. The forecast was $425 in Q2. It finished at $438. But look at what happened. The math was so bullish for Q2 on Ultra Prism that even the lower confidence bound was positive. Even the lower confidence bound, the math said, listen, no matter what, we don't think this set's going to lose any value. And it didn't. It beat forecast, right? Now, it didn't get all the way. It almost hit the upper confidence bound, right? Like, this is really exciting because we're going to see another set that is in the exact same situation right now, where we see one set that is a positive lower confidence and a positive upper confidence bound. And if you believe in the math, that might be an indication that you need to do some more due diligence, do some more research on your side, because if we start to see this happen time and time again, it might be a good buy signal for us, just like that video where we talked about booster back prices versus booster boxes. Now, you look down here below, okay, lower confidence bound for Q3 is at 0. The math is saying no matter what, Ultra Prism isn't going to lose a penny, which I think is a really, really good sign. It is saying it could go as high as 6% up with a forecast at $452. So it's not super bullish on it. The math doesn't think that it's going to absolutely set any world records in regards to price appreciation over the next 3 months. But this is the kind of math that I really like. So the math is very, very safe. It says it's not going to go down in value. The growth, the upper confidence bound isn't too crazy. It's going to be awesome to watch Ultra Prism and see where it shakes out. Now we get into Lost Thunder. This is the one I was just talking about, right? So it had a green, lower confidence bound was positive, upper confidence bound was positive for Q2. The forecast was $407. Absolutely crushed all of it, right? The one set we looked at before where it was green in the lower and upper confidence bound hit the upper confidence bound. This one right here blew it out of the water. And now when we look at the Q3 projections, it is saying that even the lower confidence bound is up 10% for Lost Thunder, and the upper confidence bound is up 25%. I don't know. I don't know if Lost Thunder is a $500 box. Like the math is saying the forecast is $519. I don't know. It's just so hard. We've seen this twice now. We've seen those greens perform so strongly and so well. Oh, I wish I could hit the fast forward button and get 3 months from now and see where Lost Thunder ends up. But I will say, you are going to be hard pressed to find something the math loves more than Lost Thunder booster boxes. Now, we're going to get to Celestial Storm right here. To me, Celestial Storm has been acting kind of like Cosmic Eclipse's little brother, right? I look at a ton of graphs, I look at a ton of data, and Celestial Storm is always trying to do whatever Cosmic Eclipse is doing, and it's doing a pretty good job, right? Like the math said, hey, the forecast for Q2 is $561, and it just finished at $590. So it beat the forecast, it beat the upper confidence bound, right? Like Celestial Storm did really, really, really well. Now we're looking at Q3. Q3 is saying, hey, our forecast is at $602. Not very aggressive, from $590 to $602 over the span of 3 months. Like that's not a huge price appreciation, but this is another one where we see the lower confidence bound is really, really conservative, right? It says only negative 1%. The upper confidence bound, in my mind, is also pretty conservative too, saying only positive 5%. So the math is kind of reining it in here a little bit, but it feels really, really good about the future prospects of Celestial Storm. Now, Unbroken Bonds and Team Up. I can't even talk about Team Up. I got to get through Unbroken Bonds first, but Unbroken Bonds was one where, hey, listen, it missed the forecast. I haven't said that yet in this video, right? But the Q2 forecast was $503. It finished at $481. So guess what? It still finished within the upper and lower confidence bounds, even though it missed the forecast. And this was another green, right? So listen, it still went up. It still performed well, but it just didn't go quite as crazy as Ultra Prism has and Lost Thunder is projected to do. So now when we look at the Q3 projection for Unbroken Bonds, it's sitting at $481 right now. The math is saying, hey, listen, it could get to $491. That's the forecast. It could go down 5%. It could go up 9%. Again, we see a little bit of it favored to the upside versus the downside. I think a $10 increase over 3 months is very conservative for Unbroken Bonds. Another set that I'm really in love with. I love these booster boxes. I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of the ones that we see that beat forecast when we come back and look at this next quarter. And then Team Up. Team Up just blew everything out of the water. Team Up did so good. This is an example where I feel like it broke the math, right? So the Q2 projection for Team Up was a $1,142 with an upper confidence bound of $1,219 and a lower confidence bound of $1,065. And it just said, I don't care what you're telling me. I'm going to finish at $1,447 freaking dollars per booster box. Absolutely insane. So what does that do? The math says you've got too hot, too fast, The forecast for September 30th of 2023 is $1,408. I don't think there's any way Team Up booster box price drops a single freaking penny over the next 3 months, so I think that forecast is wrong. And then you'll see when you see these crazy price movements, the math does what it does, it protects itself. It says it could go up 7% to $1,581, or it could go down 16% to $1,235. If I'm a betting man, I'm saying it's going to beat forecast, and I think it's going to finish up closer to that upper confidence bound because Team Up has shown no signs of slowing down whatsoever. But that is why we do the exercise. That is why we do the math. That is why I solidify this moment in time on YouTube so we can come back and look at it and see how it all shaped out. Now, Cosmic Eclipse and Unified Minds, our final two sets. You look at Cosmic Eclipse. I talked about Celestial Storm, trying to keep up with Cosmic Eclipse, but it just can't because CE has been on an absolute tear, right? The forecast was $590 for Q2. We finished at $701. Another example where the lower confidence bound was really conservative. Even the math back then said we think it could only drop 1%. It could go as high as positive 6%. So when we see that bullish sign, it sure seems like out of all the sets we've looked at least in Q2, they really outperform. Now, what is the math saying? Same thing in Team Up. When these sets go crazy, the math tends to protect itself a little bit. So at the end of September, it's saying the booster box forecast is $683. You're absolutely out of your mind. No way Cosmic Eclipse goes down. I do think that $745 up 6% upper confidence bound is certainly within the realm of possibility. And I don't think it's going down. I'm not even concerned about that negative 11% lower confidence bound because I don't think it's going to sniff $600 anytime soon. So another one where it's really interesting and really fun to keep an eye on this. Then we get to Unified Minds. Unified Minds blew the forecast out of the water for Q2. Q2 forecast was $437, finished at $474. Another example where the lower confidence bound was at 0, the upper confidence bound was at 10%. This is when I started, when I was putting this together, this is when I started to think, man, there is such a strong correlation there to where the math says there's absolutely no risk and nothing but upside. Every single time, it has hands down beat the forecast. So really interesting to see that. And then when you look at Unified Minds, again here, the Q3 forecast is at $284 for a booster box. I certainly think it will get there. It's only $10 more. We have 3 months. I think Unified Minds will get there. You look at the lower confidence bound, it says it could go down 4%. The upper confidence bound, it says it could go up 8%. I think Unified Minds is going to do really, really well. I think it will be very close to that $500 mark. I don't think it's going to even come close to sniffing that negative 4%. I think this is another one that we're going to ring up as a forecast beater. Now listen, if you made it to the end of this video and you love all this data, you should be a member of this channel because we do stuff like this all the time. And so if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, hit that subscribe button. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And if you liked what you saw, really appreciate it. If you give me a thumbs up, goes a long way in helping the algorithm out. And it lets me know that you appreciate all the work I put into these videos. So I hope you guys have an epic weekend, and I can't wait to come to you on Sunday because we got a top 10 video that we're going to be dropping there. You guys have a good one. See you, everybody.